Okay, so I have a question to kick things off today, and it's a serious one. Why is modern life so incredibly loud? And I don't just mean, traffic or construction. I mean the internal noise, the signal noise. It feels like from the moment you wake up, there's this constant calculation running in your head. Am I doing this right? Or what do they mean by that email? Or does this picture make me look successful? It's like we're juggling a dozen different masks just to get through a Tuesday.
It's the arithmetic of performance. That's really the only way I can describe it. We're always trying to solve this equation that has, an infinite number of variables. Other people's opinions, societal benchmarks, the algorithm.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for total exhaustion
Mm.
because you can never actually solve it. The math never settles.
Arithmetic of performance. Wow, that is
Yeah.
just scarily accurate. And that exhaustion is exactly why I felt so relieved, and I mean genuinely relieved, when I opened the packet for today's deep dive.
I know what you mean.
We're looking at this collection of research called The Simplicity of Truth, Living Authentically in a Complicated World. And the source list is, well, it's not your standard fluffy, just be yourself advice. We've got Leo Tolstoy, Carl Jung, Robert Greene, even Coach Tony Dungy. It's a really eclectic mix.
It is eclectic, yeah, but
Mhm.
there's a single thread that runs through all of them. The whole mission here, really, is to figure out how to strip away those performative layers you were talking about. We're looking for clarity. We're asking what happens when a person stops trying to be everything to everyone and just starts telling the truth to themselves first and then to others.
So let's jump right in with the heavy hitter, Tolstoy. He has this quote that opens the material, and honestly, it just stopped me in my tracks. He said, all things, even the most complicated things, become simple and clear if you separate them from other people and place them before God for judgment.
It's such a profound place to start. And it's worth pausing on that language. Place them before God. Because I know that can feel a bit heavy for some people. But if you look at the mechanism of what he's saying, he's really talking about standing before your deepest values, your conscience, the ultimate truth of who you are when there's no one else in the room, when the audience is gone.
So he's saying the complexity, the confusion we feel about big life choices,
Maria.
it's not actually about the problems themselves.
Yeah, usually.
It's coming from the other people part of that equation.
Precisely. Just think about the last time you were really stressed about a decision, a career move, a breakup, whatever. Was the stress from the actual logistics of the choice? Or was it from how you thought your boss or your friends or strangers on the internet would see that choice? Tolstoy is saying complexity is often manufactured. We do it to ourselves because we're anxious about the audience.
That is a huge shift in perspective because we always blame the situation. Oh, this is so complicated. But he's saying, no, the situation is probably simple. You're just worried about the applause or the booze.
Exactly. When you remove the audience, the right path usually becomes, well, obvious. But I want to be really clear here. Obvious does not mean easy.
Right. That's a key distinction.
It's a massive difference. The
Yeah.
truth is simple. I need to leave this toxic job. I need to apologize it to my brother. That's simple. The path is clear. But walking it, actually doing it, that's incredibly hard. But at least the confusion is gone. The mental fog lifts, and you're just left with the task of finding the courage.
Manufactured complexity. That phrase is going to stick with me. But why do we do it? Why do we cling to these performances if they just make us miserable?
Well, the sources offer a pretty visceral explanation for that. It comes from the filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Oh, this one gave me chills. Jodorowsky said, birds born in cages think flying is an illness.
And that's the trap.
It's such a haunting image. You get so used to the bars that the sky itself looks wrong. It looks dangerous. Sick.
Exactly. We normalize our own limitations.
Yeah.
We normalize the performance. If you spent your entire life bending yourself into a shape to please other people, staying in that cage of expectation, then the very idea of authenticity, of just doing what you think is right, it feels reckless. It feels pathological. We stay in the cage because it's known. It's comfortable. We know the dimensions of it.
So we think we're being safe, but we're just trapping ourselves. And then we convince ourselves that the people outside, the ones who are flying, are the crazy ones.
And Carl Jung adds another layer here that's so crucial. He points out that the cage is often built out of other people's advice. He said, the shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases.
I love that connection because we are so obsessed with best practices now. You know, the morning routine of billionaires, the diet of Olympians, we're constantly trying to wear someone else's shoe.
And Jung is saying that's just another form of the cage. We look at people we admire and we try to copy their path exactly. But you can't borrow someone else's journey. Authenticity requires this really hard, sometimes lonely work of figuring out what shoe fits you.
And if you wear shoes that don't fit, you get blisters.
Metaphorical and spiritual blisters, yes. If you're walking around in shoes that pinch, you're going to be miserable, no matter how good they look to the audience.
Yeah.
You could have the most impressive shoes, a high-status job, a perfect-looking family. But if they pinch your soul, you're just limping through life.
Okay, so let's say we're buying this. We have to get out of the cage, take off the shoes that don't fit. But how? I mean, if we've been performing for so long, we might have lost touch with how to just be. We might be numb.
And that's where the material pivots to a guy named Jim Rohn. He shifts the conversation away from the intellectual, from thinking about your life, to the emotional. He says our emotions need to be just as educated as our intellect.
Educated emotions. That's an interesting phrase. We're usually told to suppress our emotions, right? To be adult is to be stoic.
Right, but he means something different. He means knowing how to let life in. He says it's about knowing how to let life in so it can touch you. Hell, we tend to overanalyze everything. We think our way through life, but we often numb ourselves to the actual experience of living.
The source material had this great list, the 7 wonders of the world, but it wasn't the pyramids or anything like that. It was to see, to hear, to touch, to taste, to feel, to laugh, and to love.
Sounds so basic when you just list them off like that, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds like a greeting card. But when you really stop and think about them, to see, to hear, how often are we actually doing that?
That's the whole point. These aren't achievements.
Yeah.
You don't get a trophy for tasting your coffee. They're capacities. They're embodied ways of engaging with reality. And you can't be authentic if you're not present. If you're stuck in your head worrying about the audience, you're not actually seeing the person in front of you. You're ghosting your own life.
Ghosting your own life. That's terrifying. It reminds me of that Hippocrates quote from the notes. The greatest medicine of all is to teach people how not to need it.
Yes. It connects everything. True health, spiritual, emotional. It's not about finding some external fix, some pill to numb the anxiety of the cage. It's about learning to live well, to respond wisely. If you're fully engaged, you don't need the salve because you're actually living.
Okay, so we need to feel more, be more present. But,
Yeah.
and I'm playing devil's advocate here,
Right.
we also have to get things done. We have bills to pay, careers to build. We can't just sit around feeling the wind on our faces. We need a strategy.
Right. Authenticity isn't passive. It's not just meditating in a field. And this is where we get really practical with Robert Greene.
Ah, Robert Greene. I love his work. Always brings that strategic edge. So what is the apprenticeship of authenticity?
Greene's advice is to just focus on accumulating real-life skills, specifically in areas that genuinely excite you, not what the market says is hot, not what your parents wanted for you, what lights you up.
Back to the shoe that fits.
Exactly. But here's the key, and this is where Greene is so brilliant. He talks about adaptability. Mastery comes from the ability to combine different skills later on. So maybe you learn coding now, and you also love public speaking. And, I don't know, you're into gardening. On the surface, those things don't go together.
A coding gardener who gives speeches. Yeah, it sounds like a weird niche.
But maybe 10 years from now, you invent some complex agricultural software, and you become the spokesperson for a revolution in ag tech. Suddenly, you're the only person in the world with that specific combination of skills. That's where your unique value, your truth, comes from.
And he says the internet has just been a huge game changer for this.
Oh, huge. He says the walls around information have been shattered. It used to be you had to be in a guild or a specific university, gatekeepers everywhere. Now, you can learn almost anything online. The only barrier left is your own willingness to actually sit down and do the work.
No excuses. The library is always open.
Pretty much, yeah. But that can be overwhelming, which is why I love that the notes pair Greene with, of all people, John Wooden.
The legendary basketball coach.
The very same.
Yeah.
And Wooden's wisdom is the antidote to that feeling of overwhelm. He just says, apply yourself each day to becoming a little better.
That's it. Just a little better.
It's aggregation of marginal gains. You just focus on today. If you get a little better every single day, over time, you become a lot better.
But there's a tension there, isn't there? Because the notes also bring up Yu Fei, the Chinese general, who warns us not to let time just slip by, or we'll regret it when our hair is gray. That kind of stresses me out. It feels like the pressure is back on.
It can feel that way, yeah. But you have to balance Yu Fei's urgency with the wisdom from Sally Koch. She reminds us that the great opportunities, the big, heroic movie moments, they're really rare. We're not going to save the world every Tuesday.
Okay, so what's the alternative? Because nobody wants to get to the end and feel like they wasted it all.
Koch says small opportunities surround us every single day.
Okay. So the accomplishment Yufei is talking about doesn't have to be some grand gesture.
Exactly. The accomplishment is seizing the small opportunities, the daily kindness, the small skill you practice, the moment of patience. If you wait for the great opportunity, you'll end up with gray hair and regret. But if you seize the small ones, you build a life of substance. And that is the accomplishment.
Speaking of substance, we have to talk about integrity, because this is where the rubber really meets the road. And this is the hardest part. It's about our words.
This is the core challenge, for sure. The text uses a really visceral metaphor. Be sure to taste your words before you spit them out.
Taste your words. That's such a vivid image. It implies they have a flavor, and sometimes that flavor is poison.
And once they're out, you can't take them back.
Yeah.
And this is where Tony Dungy's argument comes in about foul language in the locker room. And he doesn't approach it from a moralistic, preachy way. He approaches it with pure logic.
Yeah, I love this. So the common excuse is, hey, it's a football locker room, high stress, people swear, I'm just adapting.
The environment excuse? I can't help it. But Dungy just dismantles that. He points out that if that same player gets interviewed on live TV after the game,
Right.
they don't swear.
Right, because they'd get a huge fine.
Exactly. So the logic is simple. If you have the self-control to not swear on TV, you possess the ability to control your tongue. You have the capacity. You're just choosing not to use it in the locker room because you think the cost is lower.
Oof. That just destroys the I can't help it argument. It exposes it as a choice.
Completely. It proves it's not a lack of ability, it's a choice. And Dungy says this creates a fragmented self. You're one person on TV, another in the locker room. You're not whole. You're not authentic.
And it goes beyond just swearing. He talks about that whole just kidding culture. When someone says something mean and then tags on, I was just kidding.
That is a trust killer. Dungy says if you hide insults behind just kidding, people stop trusting you, period. If I can't trust you to mean what you say when you're joking, why would I ever trust you with something serious?
It just erodes the foundation. So what about when people come at us with harsh words?
He talks about that. He admits his first gut instinct is gloves off to fight back, which is so relatable.
Very relatable. Fight fire with fire.
But he says his better instinct, the one aligned with his values, is to wrap my loved one within my protective embrace. The key insight is, do not lower yourself to the level of the attacker. That is true strength.
And that leads perfectly into the final section on confidence, because it takes a ton of confidence to do that, to not fight back. But the material makes a really specific point here. It says, do not fake it until you make it.
Yes, this is a crucial, crucial nuance. Fake it till you make it is popular advice, but the source argues it's just deception. It's performing. It's another mask.
So what's the alternative then?
Act as if.
Okay, unpack that for me. Because to most people, acting as if and faking it sound like the exact same thing.
They sound similar, but the intent is completely different. Faking it is about fooling the other person. It's external. Acting as if is for you. It's practice. It's about embodying the behaviors of the person you want to become, even if your feelings haven't caught up yet.
So faking is lying to others. Acting as if is teaching yourself.
Exactly. It's behavioral alignment. True confidence comes from self-honesty, from lining up your thoughts, words, and actions. Acting as if is how you practice that alignment.
And there are some really specific physical things you can do for this. I love these because they're so simple, but you just know they work.
They're incredibly practical. Number one, sit in the front.
Which is terrifying for most of us. We love the back row.
We do. But sitting in the front says, I am here. I'm a participant. Number two, make eye contact. Number three, walk 25% faster.
25%. I love that. It implies you have purpose. You have somewhere to be.
It changes your physiology. Number four, smile big. And number five, speak up when you have a perspective.
These are all physical actions that signal to your own brain, I am here, I am participating. You're not just a spectator.
They're ways of breaking a pattern of passivity. You're acting as if you're a confident person. And in doing so, you actually build the confidence. You're practicing presence.
It's like reps at the gym. You do the reps to get strong.
Precisely. And the text reminds us that confidence has to be earned. It's earned when your outsides match your insides. And when that happens, you don't have to worry about being found out. That's the ultimate simplicity. You don't have to remember which mask you're wearing because you're just you.
Man, this is powerful. We've gone from Tolstoy to Tony Dungy to walking speed. As we wrap up, how do we land the plane on all this?
I think it all comes back to courage. Everything we've discussed, leaving the cage, taking off the shoes, controlling your tongue, it all takes courage. And the sources define courage so well. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act in the presence of fear.
So you don't wait for the fear to go away before you start.
You can't. If you wait for the fear of judgment to disappear, you'll wait your whole life. You have to act while you're afraid. That's the only way out.
It's the contrast between the complicated life, the endless performance, the anxiety, and the simple life.
Which is just peace of direction. It's knowing your words match your deeds. It's a clarity of knowing you're standing on solid ground, even if it's hard.
There was one last line in the notes that really hit me about the internet. It said, "No search engine can install integrity."
That's the takeaway, isn't it?
Right.
You can download all the knowledge in the world. You can listen to this deep dive, but integrity, that has to be earned daily. You can't Google your way to a strong character.
One honest moment at a time.
One controlled word at a time.
I want to leave everyone with the final thought from the material. It's a call to gratitude, but also a call to action. It says, remember how blessed you are to see another day.
And the implication is, don't waste it on a performance. Use that day to wear your own shoes.
That's it for today's deep dive. We'll see you next time. Stay real.
Take care.